A 911 operator was charged with manslaughter for killing the woman that you're looking at now. Let's put her picture up for mass. I've been saying this from day one, the 911 operators who were proven to be negligent and caused the death of someone should be held accountable. So there's a 911 operator has been charged with involuntary manslaughter after he declined to send an ambulance to that woman. That woman you're looking at was bleeding to death. This was in Pennsylvania. The AP reported this. The criminal complaint filed within the Western District of Pennsylvania last month says Leon Price, 50 years of age, was on a 911 call between him and Kelly Tichenor and refused to send an ambulance to her mother that you just saw unless she indicated she will go to the hospital. So you literally have a back and forth between a 911 operator and a hysterical young person calling the operator because her grandmother is suffering and bleeding. There's more. Ms. Tichenor made the 911 call on July 2020, according to court documents. In the complaint, Tichenor's attorney said she described her 56-year-old mother, Diana Cronk, as incoherent and bleeding from the rectum. That's what she said to the 911 operator. Now, you and I don't need to be trained to understand that's serious. All right, this is a serious thing. You need to get an ambulance over here right now. 911 operator decided not to do so. But Price told her bluntly, the 911 operator said bluntly that no emergency services, such as an ambulance, would be dispatched to her mother because it would be a waste of resources, the complaint says. No requested emergency services came that day as a result of defendant Price's actions and as a proximate and or direct result of the lack of emergency medical care. Ms. Cronk died, according to the complaint. The 911 operator is the proximate or direct cause of the death. That's your prerequisite for a homicide, okay, for manslaughter. If Price had sent an ambulance, had done the basic job of a 911 operator or some kind of emergency, according to the report, the complaint says Ms. Cronk would have at least suffered less and might have had a more dignified death. The lawsuit also says Price must have been aware of the gravity of the situation due to the daughter's pleading tone and description of what was wrong with her mother. The daughter goes into much detail about the scene, about the pain and the bleeding of her own mother. Mr. Price, non-responsive. Mr. Price decides not to send an ambulance, and Mr. Price has now been arrested, charged with manslaughter. Ms. Tichenor said, I believe in my heart that my mother would still be alive if he would have sent an ambulance. It should not have been his decision. He should have sent an ambulance and let the professionals decide if she could go to the hospital or not. That actually happened 2 years ago. He has finally been charged in Greene County now. 2 years later, Greene County, Pennsylvania officials have now charged Price with involuntary manslaughter. The Post reported, for which, what's the maximum here? A $10,000 fine. Up to 5 years in prison, that's your maximum. So you have an entire human being who's dead. You actually have someone who's responsible. And the maximum they can get is a $10,000 fine and 5 years in prison. You know good and damn well he would never get the maximum. Mr. Price obviously was mistaken about his profession, causing the death of unarmed people. Who you think you are, the police? Let me remind you of Tamir Rice. Let's put up his picture, because there's another 911 operator that should be arrested. This happened back in 2017. Look at the face of this 12-year-old. Now, we talk about the cop who did it. We had a lot of commentary about that cop last week. We stopped him from getting another job. But you know what happened with the 911 call? The 911 dispatcher did not report that it was a juvenile and did not report it was possibly a toy, even though the person who called 911 said it is probably a toy gun and he's a juvenile. Dispatch did not relay that, just called the 12-year-old Amir Rice, just called the young man a guy. Okay, 2017, a 911 dispatcher who took a call that led to white officers fatally shooting the 12-year-old child outside of a recreation center has been suspended for 8 days. Police Chief Calvin Williams found in a letter dated March 10th that Constance Hollinger, that's the 911 dispatcher that should be arrested now. Constance Hollinger violated protocol the day of the shooting of Tamir Rice, who had been playing with a pellet gun. Now, get this. There was a suspension. Literally, the 911 dispatcher got a harsher penalty than the cop that killed the young Tamir Rice. This happened in 2017. Where is justice because of the failure of this 911 operator for Tamir? Tamir was shot within seconds of the police cruiser skidding to a stop just a few feet away from him, November 2014, outside the Cleveland Recreation Center. The city's internal disciplinary charges accuse Hollinger of failing to tell the dispatcher who sent the officers to the rec center that the man who called 911 about a guy pointing a gun at people also said it could be a juvenile and that the gun might be fake. Dispatch said none of that. We brought this up 2017. It happened 2014. Still no justice for the young Tamir Rice. All right, sharing thoughts.
Yeah, and Tamir Rice's mother is still hollow, broken. Life will never be the same. 1.8 seconds, I believe it was, might have been less than that, when the officers violated their training and protocol and rolled up on the scene like, something out of a dumb cop movie. It was ridiculous. Mr. Price, in this current case, there's a difference, Dr. Richey, between a mistake and willful misconduct, right? And I often wonder why people like Mr. Price go into jobs where they have to interact with the public at some of their most stressful moments. They do it because it's about power. Just like the police you mentioned and talk about often on this show, they do it because they love power and they love to misuse it and they love to control people. And this woman was not provided expedient medical help because Mr. Price wanted to play God. He's unworthy. It should be the $10,000 and he should get the maximum. And I hope you keep talking about it because light has to be, put the spotlight on these people. Right.
Yeah, and that's the greatest way to disinfect corruption is by way of exposure. That becomes the great light that we have with platform.